I think it's the booby prize for the dentist. Like they didn't know that they were going to be the CEO of a business and take care of team, HR, IT, finance, operations. Right? And whether it's a big company or a little company, those are still real things, right? Those really are real things, and they really do need to be addressed, you know?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao, coming to you from South Florida. I'm talking to a guest who's in the West Coast, so a 3-hour time difference. I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy me coming to your inbox every single Friday at 5 a.m. We're supported by both Dental and CallRail, so I want to thank them for their continued support. And I also want to remind everybody about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice. It's just a few weeks away. You have a limited time to register. It's September 26th and 27th. It's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 5 miles from the Fort Lauderdale Airport at Pier 66 Resort. Amazing new resorts. Just opened up literally a few months ago. I was there a couple weeks ago, and it's an amazing venue. I'm so excited. We just bought or just rented out a yacht, a 130-foot yacht to have an evening event on and cruise the water that's right around where the resort is. So you do not want to miss this. You can go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and you can use the code RAVING, RAVING, to save $100 on your registration. So I'm excited because I don't have too many repeat vendors or speakers or podcasters on my podcast. I like to bring new people in, but every so often I want to bring someone who I think did a fabulous job, and she's coming back for the second time. So I want to welcome Melinda Heryford to the podcast. Today's episode is called From Burnout to Brilliance, and I'm going to briefly read Melinda's bio, and then we'll jump into the content that we want to talk about. So Melinda has over 30 years in dental industry. She knows what it takes to build a thriving, high-performing practice. The practices that succeed under her guidance are led with clarity, powered by systems, and grounded in accountability, where every team member plays a role in driving growth. She's known as the practice implementer. Melinda helps practice owners and teams transform performance by focusing on the 5 prime pillars: plan, people, process, patience, and profit. Her coaching zeroes in on the vital 20% of those pillars that create 80% of the results, helping dentists work smarter, not harder. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Melinda Heryford. Melinda, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Lynn. Great to be here with you today, and excited to share with your audience.
I'm excited to have you back. So let's I always like to start off with, in case someone didn't listen to the previous episode, why don't you, and I know I read it in your bio, but why don't you kind of tell practices or tell the listeners and viewers how you help dental practices? Let's start there.
Yeah, I've been doing this a long time, Lynn, as you know, as you've talked about, and the thing that doctors get hung up in, doctor owners, is and really the teams, is the whirlwind of just patient care. There's thousands of steps every day, and it's really hard to stay focused on the things that make the difference for growth. And so what I've done over these years is really kind of scale back the to-dos and really look at what are the most important things to get done that really drive patient satisfaction, team satisfaction, and growth.
Got it. And then just from a understanding, do you do on-site, coaching? Do
Yeah.
you do virtual coaching? Talk about what kind of relations you have with the offices or doctors that you work with.
You bet. And I think everybody their focus is a little different. So we really get inside the practice, and almost as if we're a team member almost. And so, we do that predominantly virtual, and we have some on sites, but predominantly we're working with clients virtually. And so, Lynn, part of part of really getting a focus is understanding the doctor, the team members, the roles, and then working with people individually, with the leadership, with the team. It really is a combination of working with the people, and in those different uh, combinations that actually helps the client grow, helps the team understand, okay, all right, this is my most important thing. Okay, this is the thing I need to focus on. But you can't do that in just a team meeting. You can't do that in a global training. And so we train our clients globally, where all our clients are participating in the same training. But then we dig deeper where we're having leadership training. So we're working with the leaders of the practice, and how those leaders are working with the team members. And we're working with the team members so that they actually go, oh, okay, this is how I could say it. Oh, okay, this is how I can do it. And we're all stuck in like, this is the way I've always done it. And so there's a whole relearning, as you know, because we've really designed our systems to be like the easiest way to do it to get the greatest result. But team members have to let go of what's familiar in order to embrace a new way of doing things. And so, so we find that working with individual team members and then layering it with team meetings, layering it with the leaders, actually holding the team members accountable and supporting them to be successful. Then you can see, Lynn, it's like this layered approach that really begins to, move the needle.
Got it. No, makes a whole lot of sense there. So I want to jump into some of the content here. And when, I talk to a lot of dentists. I'm on the phone with them,
Do.
constantly. I don't do a lot of coaching or consulting. I do some,
Yep.
but I get a lot of people who tell me they feel stuck. So
Yeah.
what do you believe when they say that, that they're really saying when they feel stuck?
Yeah, so this idea of burnout to brilliance, right? So that like that stuck feeling, I think what's happening, Lynn, and you were a dentist, you were a practicing dentist, there's a lot coming at you at any given time. You're working 8 to 5, let's say mostly, 4 days a week. When you're done working, you don't really want to work on the practice. And so it's it's really like things need to be managed. But when they say that they feel stuck, I think they've tried some things. They've tried to work with their team. They've tried to create some new systems, but it didn't fall right. And and many things probably didn't fall right. So there were some attempts, some steps, some missteps, and they're like, man, I don't even know what to do. I feel stuck. I feel burnout. I mean, I talked to a number of doctors that just have taken over a practice, and they have so many things coming at them. You probably know too, Lynn. You probably talked to them too, right? They have so many things coming at. They don't even know where to start. Does that make sense? Is that
No,
what you're finding?
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, a lot of times they don't know what to do. They've gotten, unfortunately, you go. I'll use this as a typical example. They go to a Facebook group, and there's many of them out
Yep.
there, and they post
Yep.
a question, and they get literally 7,500 different
Yes.
answers. They get, if they're looking for a specific company, they get 50 different companies that they should reach out to. And honestly, if they feel stuck because they really haven't answered they haven't had their question answered really, because they're given so many options. So yes, I feel that that's exactly something that you were saying there. And look, a lot of dentists get burnt out. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever suffered from burnout. I think I just overworked myself. Loved always going, but I worked my butt off to get to a position where my practice was where it was. But I also then would needed to step away because I was involved with doing other things as well. Remember, I had another career. It wasn't just doing dentistry. But I think when
Right.
someone does only do dentistry, I think if I continued on the same route, I think I would have gotten burnt out from just the grinding every day that a practice does. Because when you when you are a dentist, you have to do the dentistry. When you're a practice owner, you have to do a lot of the other ownership tasks. You're basically a small CEO or a CEO of a small company, but you've got to handle the marketing, you've got to handle the bills, you've got to handle the team, you've got to handle all these other things. So, let's talk about burnout now, okay?
Yeah.
When someone's
Like,
burnt out, they're not a failure, okay?
no,
But how does
no.
how does how does someone know if they're suffering from burnout? That's one thing I want you to talk about. What are some signs?
Yeah.
What are some symptoms? But
Yeah.
also, how does a practice recognize that it's kind of you have to hit that reset button and kind of figure things out, or else it's going to be hugely detrimental to the success of the practice and your ultimate relationship with patients and the dentistry you're doing.
Yeah, it definitely has a domino effect, no question. And I think, I think about Dr. George was a client of mine. When he called Lynn, he was successful. Like, you'd look at his numbers, you'd look at how he was doing, you look at his team, he was successful. But man, he's like, Melinda, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it like this anymore. So he was um, in doing taking care of patients 8 to 5, talking to his team members, and then on Fridays he was trying to hustle to get all those CEO responsibilities done. But what he told me, Lynn, is like he never felt like he could catch up. He never felt like he could get ahead, and he just got tired. He's like, I can't do this anymore. I don't, and he wasn't ready to retire, but it was like, I am fried. I might look good, Melinda, like, because he did. He was at a he was in a dental study club, uh, a Seattle Study Club member, and he just looked like he looked like he had all of his act together. He's like, I don't, Melinda, I really don't, and I am tortured by uh, never feeling like I can get ahead. And so that was really, I mean, I think that's part of how it shows up. When the alarm clock goes off Monday morning, do you leap out of bed, or do you hit the snooze a million times? And there is a perfection thing in dentistry, and that's kind of who's attracted to dentistry, is that, I mean, you'd have to be somewhat perfectionistic just to get your feelings and just to get the dentistry correct, right? Just to get it so that it lasts. So there's this perfection thing, and then there's the sheer number of things. So you talked about being a CEO, and I think it's the booby prize for the dentist. Like, they didn't know that they were going to be the CEO of a business and take care of team, HR, IT, finance, operations. Right? And whether it's a big company or a little company, those are still real things, right? Those really are real things, and they really do need to be addressed. And so but 97% of the dentists that I've worked with never wanted to do the CEO. They like, I didn't want to do the CEO thing. That
They just
was
wanted
like
to be a
not
dentist. That's what they went to
I
school for.
wanted
They
to
wanted
be
to
a
be a dentist.
dentist. Exactly. And so it really is that's why we call it a lifestyle business, because it is a good lifestyle. It is a good lifestyle, provides a great income. And yet there is the CEO business, the CEO part. And I think not being able to do that well also creates burnout. I think not being able to take care of the dentistry piece, to have your dentistry needs to last, and it needs to be good. Otherwise, it creates incredible heartache for a dentist. So, like, that's number one. Like, the dentistry has to be good and it has to last. But second, it's like, how do you manage this dang thing? And then Lynn, the weirdest thing is, like, I don't want to have an office manager. I don't want to have a leader. I don't want to have somebody help me. Okay, like, why wouldn't you want somebody to delegate some of this stuff too? So there's some mindsets in that really hold a dentist back, but also create some of this burnout, manifest some of this burnout.
Got it. You know, you mentioned about hitting the snooze button or, waking up. And I talk about this a lot on my podcast, and people probably have heard this before. I've been very fortunate. I never had a day like that. Every day I wake up, I'm excited to do whatever's on the calendar that day. I did have an employee though who had anxiety. Every Monday morning, she had terrible anxiety,
Yep.
and she loved her job, but she had a lot on her plate, obviously, and I made her take a step back into try to deal with some of those issues because it just wasn't productive when
Good.
she was there. But I know that a lot of dentists do suffer from this.
Yep.
There was just a post in one of the Facebook groups, and someone said that one of their friends decided to go to be a CRNA, so a nurse anesthetist. And
Okay.
they were comparing the lifestyles and the money they were making and the type of vacation they got and how much debt someone who goes into school for dental school is coming out of school. It's very interesting to see the differences and how the guy was basically pointing out that dentistry is not what it used to be, and you have to be very careful when you make a decision, especially if you can't afford to go to school. You've got to use loans to pay. That adds to it. It adds to the stress you have knowing that you
It
have to pay all this
does.
money
You
back.
bet it
It also
does.
adds to the burnout that someone can get.
You bet. You bet. Financial stress, there is nothing like it, Lynn. And when the practice is not doing well, and they're struggling to pay their bills, so even beyond the school debt, but even that the practice isn't doing well enough that they're worried about their bills every month, that is not a great way to live. It's just so stressful. And so that is, that's a huge layer of burnout for sure. I mean, it's one of I think it's the second reason that the first level of burnout is like the dentistry isn't working right. That's the first level. Then the second level is financial burnout. Then the third is the CEO business that we're talking about. Those are the layers that I see presented when I walk in. It comes in kind of um, those priorities basically.
Got it. So you've been doing this a long time. You probably have some really good stories to share. For those that are listening and watching, can you share a story where you had someone who reached out to you? They were, let's call it, stuck, or they were suffering, and they met with you or they worked with you, and I guess you can say they took your consulting, the coaching that you do, and they became very strategic in how they did things. Can you talk about a story or two that relates to that?
You bet. You bet. So I started to tell you about Dr. George, which he was definitely burnout and fried. And so I used to teach 44 systems, Lynn. I think I talked about this at the last episode, 44 systems, and I was super proud of my 44 systems. But again, talk about burnout, so George said to me, Melinda, I'm not going to do your 44 systems. So you got to figure out a different way to coach me. So, that was kind of the beginning of the journey of like, what's the 20% that makes the 80% difference? Because the truth is, Lynn, every course that every doctor goes to, that every office manager goes to, that every team member goes to, adds layers of steps onto these different procedures that we do. And so we come back into the practice, we just add layers of steps. And so that just adds more complexity. And so what we did is, Lee, is like, what's the if this is, if greeting a patient is 100 steps, what's the 20% of those steps that makes the 80% difference for a patient experience? So we literally looked at it like that, and we literally took our pencil, right, and just scratched out the stuff, and we had to scratch out some good stuff. Now, we're not compromising dentistry or the care ever, right? So like, know that that isn't one of the things that gets cut, right? But there's just stuff that doesn't make a difference. And so we were strategic about the greeting, the checkout, the treatment plan, the new patient process. These main 7 processes that we actually run through with our patients, and we looked at, okay, what are the 20% of the steps that make the 80% difference? And we did that. We layered each of those processes, and then we took each person's role, um, And we said, what are the most important things you do in this system? What are the most important things you do all day long? What are two or three most important things that you do all day long? And that's your, I mean, they still have to do their job, Lynn. So let's be clear. They have to set up, they have to break down, they have to, we have to get the dentistry done. But the focus is on those two or three things. So, like for a scheduling coordinator, that person's focus is they need to schedule the ideal day, which actually creates clarity. It creates more sanity when we have that ideal day. It also allows us to get to a production goal. So it's a beautiful thing when we manage time. So their number one is to get to goal, managing with the ideal day. So like a dental assistant is to set up and break down and have 100% of the setup and 100% of the breakdown done, right? So, because you know how frustrating it is when you walk in a room, Lynn, as a dentist, and the stuff's not there. Like this is missing, or that is missing, or this is missing, right? So each role has two or three most important things, and that person, each role is measuring how they're doing on that. And then weekly, they get to say, I'm on track or I'm off track. If I'm off track, this is what I'm going to do. So that's a meeting. We call that a powwow, Lynn. But there's a meeting where people report on how they're doing, like their two or three things, and whether they're on track or off track and what they're going to do about it. So you can start to see that the chaos starts to fall off and the clarity and focus starts to line up. And when this system is going, the doctor's no longer responsible for like having to pay attention to every nitpicky little thing, right? Because you can see now people are responsible, and then we have leaders, layers of leaders that are responsible to help those people get their job done. But you can see how beautiful it is because it's really like we just take the fluff out so that there's a beautiful focus. People know what they're accountable to do, which team members love that, right? They it's like, okay, cool. There's just two or three things. I got it. And then there's a weekly accountability around it. There's a system around how are you doing on this. So that's really that process that we did with Dr. George, which really was so beautiful because it allowed him to like actually take a breath, no longer be burnt out. Now he helped us do all that stuff, but he ended up bringing an associate in, and like, it was just beautiful. He had the best team he ever had when he went, as we went through this process, it was the best team he ever had. And part of that was because it wasn't just him doing the heavy lifting all the time. So that's one example. And then we had a big practice, three doctors, six hygienists on any given day, one facility. But you could imagine with that many providers, there's a lot going on, right? And so in that office, it really was, and they were overbuilt on all their systems. So like people would start with us, Lynn. We had people leaving like fast, and they were leaving because the expectations were so high that they couldn't deliver. It wasn't fun. So we're like, okay, we gotta we gotta come back at this in a different way so that we build a culture where people really want to be here. Like it's great that we're good at all this stuff, but it doesn't do anything if we don't keep people. So that was an office where we had to like take out a bunch of steps in order to make it more reasonable for every team member, and still have that practice grow and grow and grow. So those are a couple really great examples where we went in, simplified, and really created attention around the most important things, and created some celebration when people got there.
That's great. So there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. So I know you alluded to in some of the information you gave me something called a revenue reveal or prime process assessment. Can you
Yeah,
talk pretty quickly about that? Because I want to get through some other stuff as well. But can you
you
talk
bet.
about what that is and how that works?
You bet. So when somebody reaches out to us, Lynn, we have this revenue reveal. We look at the practice, and so we work with Dental Intel. We work with Dental Intel to actually pull 37 different metrics, and then we look at four areas of the practice in those 37 metrics: getting patients, acquiring patients. Um, and keeping patients, so retention, caring for patients, treatment planning, treatment presentation, and collecting. So we look at those four areas, but there's 37 points. And what's really beautiful about it is that based on their chart based on their chart count, it really is easy to see where the potential is in their practice. Where is the trap potential? Are they retaining the number of patients that they would like to retain? Are they getting the new patients that they want? You know how doctors are always like, I want new patients, I need new patients. But really, our job, I'm an ops person. That's my focus is ops. And there is so much potential in a practice that most of the time when we come into a mature practice, if they have 12 or 1500 charts, there's so much work to do with retaining patients and the retention programs and caring for patients and the way we talk to patients so that they can embrace and say yes to their treatment and they can say yes to getting healthy. There's just it's over, it's endless, the possibilities inside. So what we're looking at, Lynn, when we do that is we're looking at what are all the possibilities, and that really helps the doctor to see, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, I have some good stuff here. Now, how do we tap into that good stuff?
Got it. Got it. So one last thing I wanted to ask you is there's a quote that I've heard you quote before from James Clear. It is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. So what does a commitment to the process look like for a dental practice owner?
Yeah. Wow, thanks for asking that question because this is such a big piece, Lynn. Um, sometimes doctors uh, they hire consultants and then they think the consultant is the one who's going to do all the work. And so the commitment to the process is really their internal commitment to say, okay, I'm going to implement this system and I'm going to lead the charge on this system and I'm going to be that leader that does that. They don't have to do all the work, Lynn, right? They have to lead the charge. And so this is just that piece that is so fundamental. I mean, it's the same with creating culture. It's like doctors, you are responsible for this practice that you purchased. You are responsible for how it shows up, how it nurtures people, how you nurture not only your patients but your team. And it's the same with process. You own the process. You're the owner of the process. Other people do it, right? But you get to own it. Does that make sense, Lynn?
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted to bring up before we transition back to the lightning round Q&A? Is there anything that we missed in talking about in the content
Well,
portion
I
of it?
think just Yeah, I just think that if you're feeling any level of burnout, know that that is chaos, right? That you're in some state of chaos, and that there are answers, and there is a way to actually have clarity and focus in a way that you can love what you do again.
I think that's important to love what you do because if you don't love what you do, you ain't going to wake up in the morning to do it. So, as I
It's
mentioned,
hard. It's
it
hard.
it's very very difficult. I completely understand with that. So let's jump into our lightning round Q&A, Melinda. I don't remember what I asked you the first time, but we're going to run through a bunch of these things
Great.
and we'll see how much we get done. Let's try to get through 8 to 10 of them. Quick answers.
Okay,
Lightning round. Do you have a system in place to keep yourself organized?
I do.
What is it?
Do you want to know what it is? Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a day timer, and I also I write down kind of what are my most important things. I set goals. You know, Lynn, we talked about this. I set goals. I have a 90-day check-in on those goals. I refresh those goals every 90 days, and then when I do my day timers, it's all about how do I work in my tasks to get to those goals. And then I have an accountability buddy. I have several actually accountability buddies, and that helps me go the distance. So it really is, the 12-week work week. It really does work.
Got it. How do you develop key partnerships?
Yeah, that I mean, I've been at this a long time, and so, I think it's about developing friendships. I think it's about understanding what's important and what is on the radar for your partner. I think it's understanding who could be a friend and who could be a partner, because you do have to have some uh, mutual ways that you can take care of each other to be a partner. I mean, there's vendors, there's friends, and then there are partners. And partners are different, because it's like you go the distance together, and you do some stuff and they do some stuff, but together you're making that client better.
Got it. If you could be trained in any one thing by a top professional, what would you choose to be trained in?
Yeah, that's great. I would say communication. And the reason I say communication is because it is the hotbed of being effective, period. Whether it's a speech, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's training, communication is just the key to effectiveness.
What do you think your unique skill that has helped you become successful?
Yeah, I'm really good at seeing what's awesome in another person, what their strengths are, what their skills are, what their talents are. And I'm great at figuring out how to put those together like a puzzle. And so that it shows up, Lynn, like facilitation, but truly that's what's behind knowing. I mean, I know what's needed in the practice. It's like, how do I take the strengths and really highlight those to put the puzzle pieces together for a better result?
Got it. What is the smartest investment you've ever made?
Wow. I have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, Lynn, in my education and growth, personal and professional. And I would say, there are probably a couple standouts, but truly it's continued education that reinvigorates my passion and actually sharpens the saw so that I feel like I am better and better and better.
Got it. Do you have a favorite business podcast?
Let's see. So my business podcast would probably be, let's see. Well, I like Brené Brown's leadership one, and I also like Patrick Lencioni's podcast.
Got it. What book do you want to go back and reread as it has made a great impact on you the first time you've read it?
Yeah, Traction is an awesome book. It's a more current book, but the EOS system, Lynn, is lean and beautiful. And so I find myself wanting to hone and hone and hone that. And we've implemented a big piece of that in the way that we do our work. But I really want to keep getting better and better at that lean process that shows up in EOS.
Got it. Do you keep a journal and does it help you?
I do keep a journal. I do. And yeah, I think it really gives rise to what's happening inside of me so that, how we talk about positivity. And so it helps to hone so that I am staying in a positive forward momentum instead of being caught in some sort of negative pattern.
Who is one person you love to have as a mentor?
Yeah. Well, I think I would say Patrick Lencioni. I would love to have him as a mentor. That would be amazing. I've had some amazing mentors, Lynn, like love it, and I'm so grateful. But yeah, if I could pick any, that'd be awesome.
Got it. Two last questions. How do you define success?
Yeah. My definition of success is way different than it would have been 20 years ago. So my definition of success is joy, happiness at what I'm doing, and actually doing a good job, fulfilling the mission.
Got it. Last one, which I ask everyone. I probably asked it for you before because it's one I do every podcast episode. What is one subscription, either business or personal, that you cannot live without? So you can't live
Wow.
without it. Something you
Okay.
pay for on a monthly basis or an annual basis.
Yeah. Wow. I have so many of them. Well, I would say, like, does my Office 365 count?
Perfect. That's it. There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, Melinda, how can people reach out to you? How can they find out how you can help their practice? Why don't you provide your contact information? I think you have a free offer or something to give away for free as well. So, why don't
I
you
do.
let the audience know about that?
Yeah, you can reach me at my email, Melinda at melindahereford.com. There's a Y in there, so just look at the show notes. And I would love to offer you our revenue reveal check. So reach out to us and let's see where your golden opportunities are so that you can go in and tap some of that potential.
Got it. Well, this was awesome, Melinda. Thank you so much for joining me again. If you're listening or watching it and you want to reach out to Melinda, she just provided her contact information. So feel free to reach out and tell her you heard about her on my podcast, Raving Patients. I want to remind everybody to thank or reach out to the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and CallRail. They allow me to come to you every week with a new episode and remind everybody about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice. Just a couple more weeks until we've arrived. It's going to be 2026 as well, September 25th and 26th. But if you want to join, there should be some tickets available. Superchargerdentalpractice.com and use the code RAVING, RAVING, to save $100 on your registration. And as I end every single one of my podcast episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next episode, Melinda, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.